Please
This
confirm if
conference
you're
will
able
now be
to.
recorded.
Can you please confirm if you're able to see me? Sorry, able to hear me and able to see my screen?
Yes, yes, so you're
Great. Thanks for the confirmation. So I welcome you all to the day one of AWS DevOps session. So how you guys are feeling? Are you guys excited to learn a new technology? Let's have an interactive session, guys. You can
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
unmute yourself and you can speak up. We did not put any restrictions.
Yeah, we
Let's
are
have an
excited.
interactive
Like,
session.
Yes,
Great.
yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So let's go ahead and get started with the day one. Okay. So we won't be able to learn, we are learning DevOps on AWS cloud, correct? So we cannot directly pitch on to the DevOps concepts. Why? Because DevOps is a process of developing a software, testing it, and will be deploying into the production environment, correct? So what is production environment? We might have dev environment, we have test environment, we might be having a pre-production environment, we might be having a production environment, correct? Can anybody let me know what exactly we would be having in a production environment? What would be looked into? Anybody, any volunteer, you can unmute yourself.
What
yeah,
was the question?
production means a live environment which is facing the real world users.
Mhm. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, basically it's a live data
Mhm.
where all the organizational data will be in the live.
Mhm. So if I have to answer the same question, production environment is nothing but a server, so some software, hardware configuration would be there in the backend, agree? Where our website would be hosted or our product would be hosted, so that customers, the end users, would be able to access it, correct?
Yes.
Right? So, okay, well and good, we will be learning DevOps. But where do you host your website or your product? In the backend, right? I mean, in traditional days, we used to host in an on-premises environment, but we are in cloud now. So we should be hosting our website or our product in the cloud data centers. So especially in our case, it would be AWS cloud. So AWS data centers, which were spread across throughout the globe, right? So for a DevOps engineer, it is very much important to understand what is a developer role, what is an AWS administrator role, what is a tester role, what is a scrum master role, what is the role of an uh, maintenance and monitoring team, right? There are a lot of teams that will collaborate and work towards a common goal, which is collaborating and coordinating to make sure that we are delivering the product to the client so that their end customers would be going and using it. So ultimately, we have to go ahead and deploy our website in the infrastructure which was hosted in AWS cloud. So that's where we need to go ahead and get started learning the cloud concepts, the basic cloud concepts. Then probably we'll be getting into the AWS related services. Then we will be moving into the DevOps concepts, right? So it is very much important for all of us to go ahead and understand the infrastructure first before we get on to the DevOps, right? So let's go ahead and get started with the very basics called cloud concepts. So the cloud concepts that we are going to deal with are similar across any cloud service provider that you take in the market. You take Amazon Web Services, you take Microsoft Azure Cloud, you take Google Cloud Platform, or our Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or for the matter, your Alibaba Cloud, HP Cloud, IBM Cloud, whatever the cloud that you take in the market, cloud concepts are similar. So these are the fundamentals and your basic building blocks to go ahead and learn cloud. So let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing that we have to know is what is the role of a cloud administrator in the company. So though the course is related to DevOps, we'll be getting and understanding what would be the roles of a DevOps engineer in detail in the further classes. But let's concentrate about what would be the role of a AWS cloud administrator. Why? Because you will be learning some part of administration as well in this particular course. It is very much important. Why? Because if you take a DevOps engineering team in a company, it constitutes multiple teams. It not just having only developers, it will be having testers, it will be having DevOps engineers, it will be having a Scrum Master, probably an incident management team, problem management team, or a change management team, maintenance and monitoring team. So being a DevOps engineer, we might concentrate on CI/CD pipelines a lot, the continuation, integration, and continuous delivery. But at times, being a DevOps engineer, we might have to focus on setting up the infrastructure as well. Why? Because at times in a project, we might have the AWS cloud administrators who might be fall sick and might not be able to work for that particular day. So what happens if you don't have a cloud administrator and your development team or the release and deployment team wanted to deploy uh, one of the one of the work items into the production? So infrastructure is must for everybody. Infrastructure is must for everybody to go ahead and set it up and to deploy the things in the production. So let's go ahead and talk about the role of a cloud administrator. So in general, if I have to tell you the role of a cloud administrator in a simple terms, so the cloud administrator or the AWS administrator's role is to make sure that they are maintaining and managing the infrastructure in the cloud. So when I'm talking about maintenance and managing it, probably a successful cloud administrator would be creating remote machines or EC2 machines that we call it as in AWS terminologies. Probably they might create certain storage buckets or they might deal with virtual private cloud, virtual network. They might deal with lot many services, probably databases, probably web applications, whatnot. They would be going and dealing with lot of services that are present in the AWS console, right? So whenever there is a demand or requirement from the customer, probably we would be getting the requirement and it's the cloud administrator responsibility to go ahead and fulfill the requirement. It's just not about fulfilling the requirement, it's all about following the best practices to make sure that how the cloud administrator can come and make sure that the deployment or the infrastructure setting up is done in a cost effective way. Why? Because it's all about providing value to the customer. And though you might be getting onto the cloud environment, you anyway save a lot of cost. But once we move to the cloud, we can even save a lot of other cost. So why, how we will be looking into it in the real-time classes. Okay, let's understand. So as I said, a successful cloud administrator will manage the cloud services that might span across your storage, networking, and compute with a deep understanding they should have on the entire or a full IT information technology lifecycle, right? So the cloud administrator will basically work with the end users and they might take their recommendations or the requirements as to what is the kind of infrastructure that they need, what is the software hardware configuration that they need to come up with, right? Things and stuff they will be looking into it, considering from a futuristic perspective. Why? Because we cannot just deploy things blindly in the air. Why? Because whatever that we deploy, we have to take the futuristic perspective into picture, right? Why? Because tomorrow if I have to scale up my infrastructure, right? So if you did not set up the options at the current moment, probably it would be very difficult in the future to go and expand. So if you don't set it up, the future expansion, probably you have to when demand raises, you might have to create the infrastructure from the scratch again, which means it's a duplicate work, duplicate effort. So it is all about understanding what is the capacity that the customer needed and how the monitoring capabilities that we have to go ahead and set it up, right? So during this phase, there is a lot of communication and coordination that should happen between your customer, your stakeholders, your end users, everybody. So all of us would be working towards a common goal to set up the infrastructure which will be providing value to the customer. So a successful cloud admin will basically use the Amazon Web Services console. We would be having a graphical user interface site where the cloud administrators, even the DevOps engineers, will be using it to deploy the infrastructure, right? We'll also use certain other tools like command line interface as well, right? So all in all, a successful cloud administrator should have experience and hands-on in operating systems. It may be Windows, Windows Server, or Linux. Or they should be very well aware of what exactly is the virtualization technology, right? And obviously, since they are cloud administrators, they should at least have to complete the AWS associate training, and they should know how the storage works, how the virtual network works in the remote data centers, and how we can go and access the infrastructure from our local machines. So this is all about the role of a cloud administrator in the real time whenever they crack an interview and they get into the job roles of cloud administrators. This is what the role that they should be able to perform. Any questions before I move further? Okay, I'll take it as a no. Let's move on. So, don't you think that it is very much important for all of you to understand the on-premises environment before we move on to cloud? So, cloud is a current big thing that is happening in the market, correct? But how we have landed into cloud environment, we should know about it, right? So, let's say if you talk about a mobile phone, we'll always talk about landlines. We'll always talk about the basic feature phones that we have used in 90s. In 1990s, we might have used basic feature phones. Then in 2000s, probably we have come up with the basic smartphones, right? And in 2010s, and we are in 2020 now, and you see the smartphone era has grown up like crazy. Why? Because we are going to utilize all of the resources that we have. I mean, especially the human mindset, how smart the innovation is, right? So now you're seeing Apple phones and you see the high-end Android phones, a lot of smartphones. So you see from landlines to the smartphone era, you know very well as to how we have come up into the situation of a smartphone now. And you know what are the features that we would be having, what we can do, what we cannot do, a lot of things that we know from a mobile phone perspective. In the same way, you learn administration course on cloud or you learn DevOps, it is very much important for all of us to know about the evolution as to how come we have come into a cloud era and why we might have to get into and adopt cloud computing from different vendors that we have available in the market. What is the benefits that we are getting if you move to cloud, right? So let's understand the evolution first. Let's understand the evolution. So in earlier days, what we should be having? So we have a customer or we have an organization. They used to buy the server. They used to buy a server. This server might be having a configuration, right? Let's assume some 10 CPUs or cores, or let's assume some 30 gigabytes of RAM, right? Probably this might be having some storage space, let's say 500 GB of hard disk or 1 terabyte of hard disk, whatever it is. So the customer would be making use of the server to host their website. This is a website. So what does this mean? This is a dedicated server in the traditional days or in the previous days. Probably if you have to take in 70s or in 80s, 1970s or 1980s, this is how people used to go and buy the servers. This we are calling it as a dedicated server. We would be able to create only one website out of it. We can only host one website out of this hardware. So what does this mean? Since this is a dedicated server which the customer is buying upfront, buying, let's say if this is costing, let's say some $500 or let's assume 20,000 or 1 lakh rupees. Yes, the customers have to go ahead and buy this upfront. There would be no discount. There is no EMI option. There is no cost option over there, right? So customer used to buy this server hardware upfront, and this is very expensive in olden days. And there is a high maintenance that we have to go ahead and do this. But you would be having high security. Why? Why? Because this is a dedicated server for your company itself. So you should implement a lot of security mechanism, firewalls to make sure that nobody would be actually hacking this particular server. So later on, we have come up with a virtual private server. We have come up with a virtual private server. So what we did here, again the same organization, company or the user or customer buying the server hardware upfront. But this time, since we have evolved and we have come up with a virtualization technology like Hyper-V or hypervisor, we will install that Hyper-V or hypervisor on top of this server. So what we can do, using the same server, we can deploy multiple machines, and we can deploy multiple websites on each and every machine here. So since the technology has evolving, the second era that we were come up with is a virtual private server. So out of the same one server, we will be installing Hyper-V, which is a virtualization software. So that software will help us create multiple machines. On each and every machine, which we will be deploying our website, right? So this is a virtual private server era. Then we have come up with shared hosting concept. Can anybody let me know what is the best example that we can go with shared hosting? Can anybody let me know the example of a shared hosting website? Anybody? Example for a shared hosting website. Come on, guys, you can unmute yourself. Let's have an interactive session. Example for a shared hosting.
Eh, Yeah, Amazon Cloud itself is shared hosting. Uh,
Yes, absolutely. So, GoDaddy.com, Hostinger.com, Bluehost.com. What are these? These are all your hosting websites, right? What you can do, let's say, what we can go and do this with shared hosting websites. Let's say I have an idea to come up with a coffee shop. Let's say I have taken a space in my area and I have set up a coffee shop. The infrastructure, let's say the seating arrangement, let's say I need a coffee vending machine, I need a coffee maker, I need coffee powder, a lot of stuff, right? Let's say I have set up the environment, okay, and I have opened my coffee shop, so people are coming and having the coffee, and my coffee shop was success. So I have the budget now. I have budget. Why? Because I've got revenues and profit. So what I'm planning to do is I wanted to plan to open one more branch of coffee shop. So since my coffee is getting popular and most of the people are having it, my business is growing. So I set up the second outlet. Now it's time to plan the third outlet now. So since my business is growing, don't you think that it is important for me to come up with a website for my coffee shop so that I can do an online business as well, right? Because people who are not speaking it up request you to go on mute. Why? Because we are getting a lot of disturbance. So I wanted to now create a website for my coffee shop. So if I have to host a website, what I have to do? Probably I have to hire a developer. Once a developer has developed the website, probably it's time to host. Where do I host? Probably I have to host in a server hardware in the backend, right? So probably I cannot afford buying the server hardware from a vendor. I cannot afford buying a server hardware from a vendor upfront. Why? Because I don't have time to manage my server. Why? Because if I buy a server, I might have to hire an IT engineer to manage my server, to manage my server. So it might be very difficult for me to go ahead and buy a server. So what I do, I go to the hosting providers. I go to the hosting providers and I take a web hosting plan, probably some RAM, let's say a 2 gigabyte of RAM, probably a 50 GB of storage, probably some cores. I'm gonna purchase probably a domain as well from them, and I can host my website. So it is not necessary for me to go ahead and manage my server hardware. It's the hosting provider's responsibility. Lakshmi, can you please mute the individuals who might not be speaking it up?
Yes, but it's not
Shravanti,
very.
I
It's not.
request you to please go on mute. It is creating a lot of noise. Thank you. So in okay. Sorry for the disturbance. So let's move on. So in shared hosting, I can go ahead and purchase the server hardware, and it's not my responsibility to go ahead and manage that server hardware. So I have to pay on monthly basis. So that's where in the shared hosting era, what is happening? It's not just one customer. Multiple customers or multiple organizations or multiple users are basically going and purchasing the server hardware which is required for them to host their website. So on this particular server hardware, multiple customers are hosting their websites. So what does this mean to us? It is very cheap. Why? Because this is a shared platform. This is a shared hardware server resources, and it is very limited. Probably if most of the customers are going and occupying this particular server hardware configuration, probably the vendor should scale up their infrastructure, and you would be paying for the server hardware configuration on monthly basis, or you can take an yearly plan or a 4-year plan or 5-year plan. It's up to you. So now we are in the cloud era. So what is happening with the cloud era? We have multiple customers throughout the world can use cloud infrastructure. So Microsoft, Azure, AWS, GCP, lot of other cloud vendors have their own dedicated data centers. So we'll be getting into the data centers. I'll show you what is the data center, what is the layout of the data center, how you can see the things inside the data center. I'll be presenting it right away. But cloud service providers have created their own data centers, which are very huge, So any customer can go ahead and take the servers on rent. Take the servers on rent. We are not gonna buy any server here. We are gonna take the servers on rent and we can host our infrastructure. So like that, multiple customers can go ahead and use the same cloud infrastructure from any of the data centers which are spread across the world, and they can create multiple machines and they can host multiple websites. So what does this mean? This is flexible. So whenever we have time, there is no time limit, there is no geography, uh, I mean limitation over there. Wherever you can be, you can use your own laptop, personal laptop, and you take a subscription, and you should not have to buy any subscription. AWS will be giving you a free trial subscription, just that you might need to have a debit card or a credit card, a Visa credit card or a Mastercard credit card you should be having, where you can go ahead and sign up, where you will be getting a free subscription where you should not have to pay a single rupee, and you can go ahead and practice and learn AWS administration associate and DevOps also you can go ahead and learn free of cost. So that is the flexibility that AWS is giving to everybody. But there are certain limitations. What they are, we will be looking into when we are deploying the services. So what is happening? Multiple customers are using the public cloud infrastructure and they are creating their virtual machines or EC2 instances and they're hosting their websites. So this is a shared hosting again. So this is flexible. You can deploy the resources at any point of time. You can access from anywhere in the world and you can delete the resources from anywhere in the world, and you will be paying for the usage that you consumed. You don't pay any upfront cost. Why? Because we are taking rent these servers. We are not paying anything upfront or we are not buying anything. You use the resources, you pay for that once the bill got generated. That's it. And you can scale the infrastructure at any point of time. You can increase the hardware configuration. You can add multiple machines whenever you need it from any part of the world. Why? Because the most beautiful thing in cloud is we don't touch anything. We don't touch anything physically. We do everything in the portal, and whatever the operation that you perform, it will go ahead and impact in the data center. So that is how AWS has been set up the architecture, and it just that you need to have a free trial account and an internet access. That's it. So that you can do miracles. That's the beauty of any cloud that you take in the market. And obviously, without security, anybody can move to cloud and host their infrastructure or save their data. No. So AWS is the pioneer in the market, which is providing a lot of security features to their customers. Just that we have to go and utilize them in a proper way so that our infrastructure is safe, secure. It is cost effective. Obviously, when compared to on-premises, cloud is dead cheap. You will be able to see how it is cheap, and it is highly configurable. So whenever you need it, we can create the infrastructure on demand. We can create the infrastructure on demand at any point of time from anywhere in the world. And you can go ahead and configure whatever the things that you needed. I mean, from the server hardware configuration, you can go with two virtual CPUs, let's say 4 GB of RAM. Otherwise, you can go with 100 virtual CPUs and 500 GB of RAM machine. Also, you will be able to get it in the cloud. There is no restriction as such. There is no restriction as such, right? So this is all about the story of cloud computing. So with cloud, we can do a lot of automation. So cloud is all about uptime and connectivity. So if you move to cloud, the cloud service providers are assuring that your infrastructure won't go down at any point of time. Let's assume if I have deployed my website in United States of America data center, any one of the data center that we have from AWS. So what if, let's say I might be deploying my website in New York data center. Let's say what happens if the New York data center of AWS goes down? Will I be able to access my website? Can anybody comment on that? Will I be able to access my website?
No.
No, right? So what it is for me, it's a business impact, correct? It will hit on my reputation. Why? Because my customers wanted to access website, but it is not available. So it will hit on reputation. Let's say if it is my e-commerce website, probably customers, the end customers won't be able to order anything. The transactions will be halted, and they might move to my competitors. Some other e-commerce websites, they might go ahead and order the products. So what is the solution for me to have my website up and running every time if New York data center is going down? I have to always set up a high availability option. I always have to have a backup. So cloud AWS is giving a lot of options, just that you have to go ahead and opt for it. Obviously, if you're going with a disaster recovery site, or if you're going with a backup solution, it won't be free of cost. Obviously, you have to go ahead and pay something additional for sure. But cloud, AWS is ensuring that they're giving a lot of options, just that you have to go with high availability options, so that your website, if New York data center is going down, immediately your website will be routed to another data center. So from there, it would be up and running. That's how you have to plan things. That's how we have to plan the things. Any questions on this before we move on to a day-to-day example to help you guys understand what is on-premises and what is cloud? Any questions?
Yes. So, hi, Kranti.
Hey,
So, trying to understand the virtual private server. You said we create virtual machines. So, are we using the same, what do you call RAM? Storage space. So, are we sharing the storage space across the virtual machines from one server?
I mean, you're talking about the second era, right?
Yeah, second one. I'm just trying to
Yes,
understand.
here, let's assume you have, let me go with an example. Good question. Let me take out the slide. I do have an example to cover for it. It's Sriram, right?
Krishna.
Krishna. So let's assume this server is having a configuration of, let's assume 576 GB of RAM.
Okay.
Okay, and let's assume the server is having 36 virtual CPUs.
Okay.
Okay, and it is having 15.36 terabytes of hard disk or storage into our terms, right? Let's assume I have 10 employees in my company. I have a company and I have 10 employees. I have to create virtual machines for them. So how many I'm showing here? 4, right? So what I'll do on this server, I'll install a Hyper-V. Hyper-V is a virtualization software, okay? Or hypervisor or VMware, whatever that you call it as. I'll install a software over there, okay? So if I install that software, it will basically allow me to create multiple virtual machines. So how? Let's see. Now let's assume I have 10 employees, but I'm going with 2 machines at this moment, so that you will be able to understand more clear. So let's say the first employee requirement is the machine should be having a configuration of 8 gigs of RAM, and they need to have one core or one virtual core, you can call it out, right? And they need to have 500 gigs of hard disk. So what I'll be doing, since this is my raw configuration, so let's assume I'm using 8 GB out of 576. What is the left? 568, correct?
Yeah.
And out of the 36 CPUs that I have, I'm taking one. So I'm left with 35 CPUs, correct? And I have 15.36 terabytes of storage. So I'm taking how much? 500 gigabytes. So I'm left with 14.8 terabytes. Agree? So the first machine is having this configuration. Let's say the second machine that I wanted to create, I need to have a 32 gigabytes of RAM. So how much I'm left? 568. So I'll be taking 32 GB out of this, and I'm left with 536. The cores that I wanted to have is 4. So how many I'm left with? 35. And I'll be going with 4. So I'm left with 31. So this time I'm gonna allocate 2 terabytes of storage. Why? Because this is a highest configuration virtual machine that I need to have. So I'm left with 14.8, and I'm allocating 2 terabytes. I'm left with 12.8 terabyte. Like this, I can create machines until I utilize the entire configuration. Now you might be understand, right? How we
So
are able to create multiple.
yeah. So the requirement of these 10 employees, say you divided into two servers, right? I mean, you based on their requirements, can it also
Mhm.
be different OS on those servers?
Yes, it can be Windows Server, Linux. You can deploy anything.
Okay. So it can be multiple operating systems on each server.
Yes, absolutely.
That's it.
Okay, let's
Thank you.
move on to a day-to-day example so that everybody would be clear as to what would be on premises and what would be the cloud. What are the benefits that we would be having? So, any volunteer who wanted to have a talk with me now?
I'm ready, sir.
Great. May I know what's your name?
Harita, sir.
Harita. Thanks for
Yes.
volunteering.
Okay.
So, Harita, let's assume you are doing your bachelor's degree.
Okay.
You are doing your bachelor's degree, and you are in the final year of your bachelor's degree.
Okay.
Obviously, in the final year, you must have to do a project, agree?
Yes, sir.
Right? So, how do you do a project? You need to have a laptop, correct?
Yes.
Laptop is what? It's a physical device where you can touch, feel, you can do your project work, agree?
Okay.
Okay, so you are in the bachelor's degree and in the final year, and you want a laptop now. Why? Because you have to do a project. So
Okay.
when this thought has been strike to your mind, what is the next thing, Harita?
We
What
need
you
to
will be looking into?
uh, build
What
a
is the
test.
what is the next step that you go with it?
We need to build
What you will build? You
the
just have got an idea. What next? What is the next step? You will be coming up with budget. Agree?
yes.
Agree. Budget is important. Why? Because based on the budget only, you might be coming up with a configuration. Agree?
Okay,
So
sir.
you have decided the budget. Then what? Your requirement is to buy a laptop. You should know the
Yes.
configuration, right? What is the
Configuration.
configuration
Yes.
that is needed? Agree?
Okay.
Configurations or specifications. Agree?
Yes, sir.
So let's assume you're wanted to go with i3 laptop, Intel i3, let's say 8th generation.
Okay.
Why? Because you are in college and you need a basic configuration laptop. Why? Because you might not be having higher budget, right?
Okay.
Let's assume you would be going with an i3 processor,
Okay.
and you are expecting 4 gigabytes of RAM, and you're
Okay.
expecting a hard disk of 500 GB. Obviously, we will look for battery backup, agree?
Yes, sir.
So when you talk about battery backup, what is the company or what is the make of the laptop that you go with? HP, Dell, they might give a lot of battery backup, agree?
Yeah.
Let's say you're looking for at least on an average 5 hours backup. Then you will look for screen size or resolution, right? It is a 14 inches or
Yes, sir.
12 inches or 15.2 inches, or you need a full HD screen or HD screen, right? Then you
Mm-hmm.
look for a camera 720 pixel. Then you look for
Okay.
ports, USB port, VGA, HDMI, or your SD card or LAN, Wi-Fi or Type C port, right? May I know if this is the budget, what would be the cost of the laptop? May I know about it?
Maybe like 600 or like that.
Mm-hmm.
600 to
Right. So let's say if I have to go with Indian rupees, probably it might cost 40,000. Right now, you have come up with the idea. You have budget is done. Your configuration is done. What next? You have to go ahead and buy, right? What are the mediums to go ahead and buy the laptop? Retail store and online, agree? Let's say you can go to a Dell store or an HP store or a Lenovo store, and you can buy the laptop there, or you can buy it in online. Let's say your Amazon.com or Amazon.in, whatever it is. May I know how much time it will take to get the laptop into your hands, the brand new laptop? Harika, are you with me? Harika, are you with me? Can anybody else wanted to have a conversation?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. So now we have come up with the idea, we have listed down the specifications, we are done with the budget, and we got to know that it will be costing us some 40,000, or let's assume some dollars. Okay, let's say $800 for the laptop. What next? You will have to go to a retail store, or you can online buy it online, right? I
Yes.
know what is the time it will take to get the laptop into your hands.
If it's online, we also have an option of next. I mean, it's faster. I mean,
Yeah.
if you go to retail store, you can buy it right away. But
Yes.
online, yeah, you can wait a couple days.
Yeah. So on an average, can I conclude that 2 days on an average to get a laptop into your hands,
Yes.
right? So let's assume I got the laptop in my hands. Will I be able to start working on my project?
Uh,
What is missing here?
Wouldn't you need credentials to get in?
Hmm.
Operating system.
I can say operating system is a basic, which we missed, correct?
yes.
Right? So let's assume I bought a laptop considering I have a license of Windows 10 operating system. So I have ordered a blank laptop. Once I got it, I have the USB, bootable USB, where I can go and install the operating system on my own. So may I know what would be the time it will take to install an operating system on a blank laptop? Let's say Windows 10 operating system.
1 to 2 hours.
Maximum 45 minutes, agree? Okay, I got operating system now. Will I be able to start working? What exactly is needed now? MS Office,
Yes.
agree? What is the time that will take to install Office? 15 minutes,
Yes.
right? So let's say I'm buying the laptop. Will somebody will give me discount, or I can go with an EMIs? Probably I have to pay upfront cost, agree? It may be $800 or it may be 40,000. I definitely have to go ahead and pay upfront cost, right?
Yes.
Now, okay, I have operating system, I have MS Office. Will I be able to start working on my laptop with my project?
You might be needing internet and
Yes, absolutely. I need internet. So, what is the time that I will take to get an internet connection? Let's say I have to call the vendor. They might tell that we'll be sending an engineer. The engineer has to come and look for the feasibility, and they have to lay down the line, and they have to give the connection. We might have to submit the documented proofs. It might at least take 1 to 1.5 day. Agree?
yes.
2 days, yeah.
Right? So now, why I'm focusing on time and cost always? I'm always focusing on time and cost, correct? So I'm
Yes.
telling it will take 40,000 to buy a laptop, or let's say $800. Let's say if I'm buying laptop including operating system and MS Office, probably it might cost me 5,000 more, or let's say $50 or $100 more. So for internet connection, let's say I'm paying some $100, I mean $50 per month or 500 rupees. So I'm taking 2 days on an average to get a laptop. 1 hour to install operating system and MS Office, 1.5 day to get an internet connection. Okay, this is what now I can go and get started with my project. Let's assume I'm in the bachelor's degree and in the final year I got placed in a software company as a software developer. Now on the same laptop, which is having i3 configuration and 8th generation, I wanted to install Visual Studio, SQL Server, Power BI, Putty, and a lot of other softwares. Do you think this configuration is enough? Do you think this configuration is enough to run the show?
Probably no.
No, it will not.
No, right? What
Yes.
happens?
Yes.
I'll face slowness. My screen got frozen always. Performance issues will come. So if I have to avoid this, what I can do? What I have to do?
Upgrade?
Upgrade.
Upgrade. But I'm a student. Do you think I will be having budget to upgrade from i3 to i5 processor laptop? No. Let's assume I'm still wanted to hold this laptop. We will assume what can be upgraded, what cannot be upgraded now. Will you be able to upgrade i3 processor to i5 in the same laptop?
So,
No.
no, not the processor, but can we use virtualization here?
No, we'll talk about virtualization later.
External hard
Let's
disk.
understand from the on-premises environment, physical device.
Okay.
So this is not
Sir,
possible at all. Correct. Yeah.
we can go for external devices, right?
Which external device?
Like hard disk, extra hard disk or something.
No, I'll talk about that later.
But
So let's talk about upgradation of the existing laptop. So i3 to i5 is not at all possible for sure. But you can upgrade the RAM from 4 GB to 8 GB, right? But what is required? You need to have an additional slot.
Yes.
Otherwise, this is a limitation, right? Will you be able to upgrade your hard disk from 500 GB to 1 TB? Maybe it's a limitation. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to have the option. Then battery backup, if you are keep on using the laptop, obviously it will decrease from 5 hours to
reduce.
2.5 hours or 2.5 hours. And screen size, you cannot
Yes.
do anything. Camera ports, you cannot do anything. So, being a software developer, you have to run my business with all of these softwares. Probably this is not the solution for me. I cannot use this. What I have to do now? Let's say, will you able to? I mean,
Get
if you sell
an
this away, how much you get? You put 40,000. You will get half of the money, right? If you wanted to sell this laptop out. Let's say if you wanted to exchange it on an e-commerce website, you might hardly get 5,000 to 6,000. Irrespective whether it is a 1 year, 1 month old laptop or 2 months, you'll get this much only. And will you be able to give this away to anybody free of cost? To your relatives or your friend? Probably
Yeah.
there is a reluctancy that will come. There is a reluctancy that will come. You might not be able to give it away. Or will you be able to throw it away?
no,
If the
sir.
laptop is not doing your work, and it is not working for your purpose, you cannot throw it away. So what is this? This is a physical device I can touch, I can feel, I can do my work. If something happens to my laptop, who will fix it? Let's say my motherboard has been corrupted and it is within the warranty. Obviously, every laptop comes with 1 year warranty, correct?
Yes.
So if it is 1 year, probably my laptop vendor will fix it. But what if my screen was broken by myself? Will the laptop service provider replace it? No. Let's assume after a year, after completing the warranty, my keyboards are not working, my keys are not working, or my battery is not giving backup. It might be just giving half an hour backup. Will the laptop service provider fix it with free of cost? No.
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 So what is laptop here? It's a headache for me. If it is not serving my purpose, it is waste of time, waste of money. So if I don't have money to upgrade from i3 to i5, obviously i5 if I have to take, it might cost me 55,000 or it might cost more than $1,000 for me, which I cannot afford. So in laptop, we have a lot of limitations, I mean to say. Okay, this is the first scenario that I wanted to go with. The other scenario is Let's assume I have a food delivery app. I have a food delivery app. So in India, we have a application called Zomato. So this is an on-premises example that I wanted to go with it. This is an on-premises example. So how Zomato has started up? May I know in which year Zomato has started in India? Anybody can comment? In 2012. So how it started? Obviously, startups will start with an idea, right? So this guy is having an idea. This guy is having an idea, but he doesn't have any investment. He doesn't have money to go ahead and start a startup. So what this guy has done, this guy has visited an investor, and this investor is a big shot who is having a lot of money. So he has liked the idea of the Zomato. What is Zomato? It's a food delivery app. So let's say I'm a bachelor. I don't know cooking, but I'm hungry now. It's lunchtime. So what I have to do, either I have to go to a restaurant and I have to dine in there. Otherwise, nowadays we have food delivery apps, a lot of applications now. What I can do, I have a smartphone. I can install the Zomato application. I can sign up. I can select my nearby restaurants, my favorite restaurants to order favorite food. I can select the respective items. Let's say I need a sandwich. Okay, probably I need a pizza. I'll select, I'll add to the cart, I'll proceed to the payment gateway. I might pay using credit card, debit card, or net banking or cash on delivery, and the food will be delivered within 20 minutes to my doorsteps. So I can have it at my home. Being at home, I can have it, and I might get a discounted rate as well. The food will be coming at a discounted rate as well. And what is for a customer? Time saving, and I might get the food at a discounted rate, and I'll get the food at my flexibility. Whenever I need it, I can get the food. Even there are certain restaurants which will be delivering overnight as well in the late night. What is for Zomato being a company? Revenue, profit. What is for restaurants? The online business has increased, right? Now this investor has liked that idea of coming up with Zomato.com in 2012 in India. So the investor has invested about 10 lakhs. Let's assume some $10,000. So this guy don't have any programming skills, but this guy hired three developers. So they're very good at .NET, Java, whatever it is, and they have hired IT engineer. So this guy using the $10,000, he has bought a space to set up his startup company. He has to buy tables, chairs, laptops, desktops, internet connectivity, server hardware. They have to basically set up a small server room, and they can start developing the application. They need what? A browser, probably a browser based application, Android based and iOS based application they need. So they have invested 7 lakhs out of the 10 lakhs that they have, and they took 3 weeks to develop the application to set up this infrastructure. I mean, they have taken only a small space for 4 members, and they have developed the app, and they have created an advertisement, and that advertisement has been showcased in the television. So customers from India have looked at the advertisement and started installing the Zomato application in 2012 13, and we are in 2022. You can see. So the app got success. If the app was successful, what happened? Profits for the investor, the creator, for customers, it's a time saving and they can get the food at discounted rate. And for the restaurants, its online business has grown up like crazy. So what happens if one of the server in Zomato has corrupted? This is a small data center or a server room within Zomato space. What we call this is an on-premises environment where the data center or the server room which was presented within the premises of the company. If something goes wrong to this data center, who will go ahead and fix it? Adnan, who will go ahead and fix this? It's a
Yes.
responsibility of Zomato, the company's responsibility to go ahead and fix it. One of the IT engineer has to go ahead and fix it. Agree? Let's say the
Yes.
internet is down. Internet is down. What happens to Zomato.com? Will we be able to access Zomato.com? No. It will have a lot of impact, right? So here we are hiring IT people. We are taking this space on rent or lease. If something goes wrong, it's our headache, right? And this happened in 2013, and the business got success. Do you think in 2014 will they be able to run the business with three developers and one IT engineer? No. They are now planning to expand their business with 100 people. So do you think they will get 100 people space in the same building which they are operating now?
No.
They may not. But what if they may not? They have to go to another building and they have to take a rent or lease. They might get a blank space or empty space. They have to again have the carpets or the wooden floor. They have to take tables, chairs. They have to take 100 laptops, desktops. They have to now set up a big server room. Why? Because the business has grown up and they need the server hardware configuration in the same way. And they have to hire IT people, multiple IT engineers they have to hire, and big server hardware they have to purchase upfront. So they might have spent 10 crores to set up this business space, and it took 3 months. So why I always concentrating on money and time here? Why? Because tomorrow we will discuss with a cloud example. So if you move to cloud, how things works will be discussing tomorrow. So in 2014, they have expanded to 100 people. And this is all on premises. If something goes wrong, it's the company responsibility to fix up the server. Lot of headache of maintaining on premises. Why? Because it is incurring upfront cost first thing. Then if something happens, it's the company's responsibility to go ahead and fix it. Lot of headache of maintaining on premises environment, which was there in our own office premises. That's where people move to cloud. So why people will move to cloud, we'll look into tomorrow. But is the point that I wanted to make is the startup which was started in 2012 has grown up now to 5,000 plus employees. 5,000 plus employees. Let's look at it. Zomato employees, how many they have? Some 5,000 employees basically. I think I'm getting a different view. They have some 5,000 plus employees, you can see. And these are direct employees, guys. Indirect employees like delivery boys is in lakhs in India. So there is an indirect employment that is being provided by Zomato. And you know, Zomato has been in where? It is in National Stock Exchange. Do you think for a startup to get into stock exchange, is it so simple? No, they have did a lot of hard work, effort. That's where they've gone into the National Stock Exchange here, NSE.
Yeah.
They have a lot of shares. So you can think of a startup has been got into a full-fledged business with a lot of headcount, and the company has grown up like anything. It has a lot of revenues and profits now, right? It is not so easy to maintain their infrastructure in on-premises now, so that they definitely have to go to cloud. If they wanted to maintain their infrastructure in on-premises, probably a lot of headache that they might have to face. So tomorrow we will see how we can set up infrastructure within fraction of minutes in cloud, especially in AWS. So with that, you guys will be getting a clarity onto what is on-premises, what is the headache, and if you move to cloud, what we from the organization and what AWS from the cloud service provider will take care of it. That's pretty much for the day. Any questions? I'm ready to take it up. Any questions that you have, I would be able to take it up. Any questions?
Small question, sir.
Yeah.
When we in the server,
When?
1 minute, sir.
Yeah. Go ahead. Hello.
There is there
Go
any
ahead with your.
over? Is there any? Not able to answer the question.
Okay, not a problem. You can think of, we can discuss tomorrow. Any other questions that we have? Any other questions?
Hi, this is Ganesh. The
Hey,
regarding
Ganesh.
AWS course content, how much? I mean, how much we can cover in this course? AWS.
I believe you have already got the course content, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we'll be covering everything of the course content. There should not be any worry about it.
Okay,
Any
sure.
additional
Thank you.
questions? Any additional questions before we call it for the day?
Is there anything like overwritten?
Overwritten in the sense
Um,
changing configuration?
yes, sir.
Yes, we can always do that. We'll be looking into the labs, not to worry about it. Yeah, thank you all. I believe, I mean, you're liking the sessions, so we'll be continuing tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.